Greetings everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about the difference between San Yuan and San He Feng Shui systems. Now both systems do look at the external landforms and place quite a bit of importance on them. The difference is how much emphasis they place on them versus what is going on in the house. The San He system cares very little about what's going on in the house. Whereas the San Yuan system, because that's the system that has all the charts for the house, that's the one who cares about what's going on inside the house. It also cares about what's going on outside, but it's very concerned with the inside. Now, San He is recognized to be very slow acting, but also very strong. But it takes time. The San He system works much faster. And it is strong enough to correct any problems that you might have from having not so great San He Feng Shui. And it also allows you to deal with problems that actually occur. The San He system can do it, but it may take longer than your lifetime to be solved. So it's not so good for acting on a day-to-day basis. Originally, San He was developed for placing grave sites. And the idea is that each generation gets a stronger energy from having an ancestor placed in an appropriate location. The San He system is as permanent as the landscape. However, severe droughts or course changes in a river can diminish or destroy a good San He formation. And humans can also have an effect. They can take down hills, usually not mountains, but they can take down hills because they're mining it for material within that hill. And that will either greatly weaken or totally destroy that piece of the San He system or its energy. And San He, we're talking about external landforms, we're talking about mountains and water. So this is an important thing. So San He is permanent, but only as permanent as the landscape is. Good San He locations in general are not easy to find, especially when they're large. That is, it really works on a large scale. These days where many of us can work remotely, a good San He location may be actually easier to find. It may be quite small. It may only affect one house or a small area, which wouldn't be enough to have a big city there, but it would be enough for a generation of family, like farmers or something like this. They could have some good energy. But this would mean if you find one of these, it's going to affect your grandkids more than it will affect you. So it's a very, very long-term look at things. Now, San Yuan is, of course, a lot more practical with today's lifestyles. Most people don't live in the same house their whole life, and certainly not their kids and their grandkids and so forth living in that same house for generations. It barely happens nowadays. There are a few places where it happens, but in places that have modernized, this just doesn't happen very much anymore. Now, the nice thing is, San He allows you to make annual adjustments, and they can compensate for a lot of problems that may crop up. And this is really the only system that you can really take care of problems in a timely manner. Now, the San He means 3 cycles. And you have seen me talk about these 3 different aspects so far. Now, the Xuen Kong 6 laws are stuff that I've also talked about, not directly listing it like this, but part of the 6 laws has to do with how you interpret all of this. So it's all, I've been talking about it, I just haven't been specifically stating this is where it comes from. But this is all part of the system that I've talked about so far. The San He means three harmonies, and it is really only concerned with the external landforms. The only thing it cares about the building, whether it's an apartment or a house, is the sitting or facing direction of the door. Not the building, but the door. And this is the only thing that you might be able to manipulate based on tapping into some good San He Feng Shui. But when you do this, you may also change a bunch of this, including it actually could change each one of these charts if you change your door. So you have to be careful, and you have to know when you look at the whole big picture whether or not you want to do this. Also, the forms, the physical external landforms that must be present to create good San He, they're actually quite strict, and they tend to be fairly rare, especially on a big scale or large scale. But they both agree on the following. External landforms are what determine the quality and quantity of the qi that reaches any building. And also, they do agree that sha qi can have a negative effect on the building's occupants. Now, the San Yuan system is a lot more specific about what kind of negative effects it may have, but the San He system does also acknowledge it does occur. Now, the San Yuan system, as I've talked about, you can see it has great advantages because there are ways to manipulate the qi inside your house to improve your feng shui. That does not occur in the San He system. And basically, like I said, the only thing you can do is change your door. That's the only way you can manipulate the San He system because it is based on what is already outside your house, and it's usually not part of your land, so you really can't manipulate it. When these are all things that are associated with the San Yuan system, I do give monthly updates on how to use the Great Sun Formula because this is actually quite important. I've talked about castle gate, and this is the more standard castle gate where you place water for a given purpose. Now, these are the 6 laws. We always talk about the Grand Duke. I've also talked about the 2 dragon castle gates, which are different than this castle gate. Then I also talked about the leaning stars. Now, this yin and yang and one heart are more like directions on how to use things. They are always been used in everything here. So it just isn't, I haven't talked about them separately, and I probably won't because it's just a way of looking at things. Now, the San He systems are basically, I've divided them into 2 general categories. There's a heaven plate water methods that have a 12 qi cycle that you use to determine the San He qi. And then there are the 72 dragon methods. And I will refer to this one as the red phoenix wood rat because Hong Luan Jia Ji is hard to say. Now, I have analyzed this one here, the red phoenix wood rat, and a watermouth location method as best as I can understand from the publicly available information. And they don't agree with one another. And I think there's something wrong with that. I mean, I am a scientist, and I do think there is an independent reality. Either a particular house does or does not receive San He qi. And I don't think it should depend on what method you use. Now, the San He masters are very, very secretive. Many years ago, the San Yuan were just as secretive, but most of this stuff is out now, even in English. I'm hoping that this will slowly leak out so it's a little easier to understand, but I am a little suspicious. I think one of the reasons they keep their secrets is because, it's so hard to prove who's right because these take so long. So I do look at a little bit of the San He when I'm looking at a site, but I'm more concerned whether or not you can see water and whether or not you can see mountains. And are they in the right locations to activate your San He formations? I think that's more important than worrying about San Yuan locations, rather than worrying about the San He, because this is so slow acting. But if you have a choice between the two and one has better San He, I would say choose that one. Now I'm going to talk in new videos about this one and this one, but they are still in the works and won't be done for a while. Now when it comes to the water methods, they all use this plate. And this is the heaven plate. We normally use the earth plate for the San Yuan methods. Now in the earth plate, the rat straddles the 0 degrees north. In the heaven plate, the rat starts at 0 degrees north. So the heaven plate is simply rotated 7.5 degrees with respect to the earth plate. There is also a human plate, which is 7.5 degrees counterclockwise from the earth plate, which I won't show, but I think it's nice that you know this. You may be able to understand what others are saying a bit more. Now, the rat, the dragon, and the monkey, this is color-coded. These are the water group. The ox, the snake, and the rooster are part of the metal group. The tiger, the horse, and the dog are part of the fire group. And the rabbit, the goat, and the pig are part of the wood group. Now you notice these all form equilateral triangles. Every single one of these is an equilateral triangle. And you will see diagrams that show this kind of thing if you search for San He on the internet. Now this is the 12 chi cycle, and it really starts with birth, even though of course this is being conceived and this is being nurtured inside the mother's body. It really always starts with growth, and the growth, the youth, the officer, and prosper, along with nurture, tend to be quite good. Bath is actually not a good sector. And I think that's because in the olden days, many children died before they reached the age of 5, and so this was a very dangerous time. It's not so true anymore, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would actually put this in an okay one for most people. And of course, this is the life cycle. I think that's pretty clear. Now, how you use that is that these things are arranged in a ring. Some masters only use the clockwise direction. You've got growth, bath, so this is in the clockwise direction. Others also allow the counterclockwise direction. Here's growth, here's bath, so it goes counterclockwise. This is fixed with respect to true north. These are not, from what I can understand. They can be rotated. Although there are some systems where they're rotated for the different types. That is, you're going to have one set for the fire, you're going to have a different set for the monkey, the water one. And that may be true. I'm still working through some of these details because, like I said, these masters don't really tell you how to use this. They talk about it, but they're pretty sneaky about explaining exactly how they use it. Now again, the San He works very slowly. And most people these days don't stay in a house long enough to feel the effects. And it really affects their grandchildren more than it affects them. And there's very little you can do to improve your feng shui when it comes to the San He system. So this is actually not terribly important. And that's why most practitioners focus on the San Yuan system. It works much more quickly. You can modify things inside your house to improve your feng shui. Now, it does require more attention to work. And oftentimes you'll have to adjust things on an annual basis. But this is available to almost every residence out there. You do have to have a definitive facing direction to use this with confidence, but I will be talking about replacement charts, which sometimes are used, but in general, they're not as good as the original charts, the ones on each side of the replacement charts, that is. But, and I don't recommend people stay there terribly long because they are very difficult to deal with. But I will talk about that in a video in the future. It's almost done now. So these are the sources I have used and I've read to be able to understand the San He. These are all books here. And for the 72 red phoenix wood rat method, I've used these 3 particular blogs of David Yak. And he doesn't do a great job in explaining how he uses it, but when you combine all these 3, I think I understand how he does it. And we'll see whether or not he ever sees this, and if he says, oh, this is all wrong, I wouldn't be surprised, even if it was right, that he would say that. But like I said, San He doesn't affect people very much today. It simply doesn't work fast enough to be of practical use. And the reason why I'm doing all this is because I want people to understand, in general, how this works. Now, I actually have a book in German that also describes the San He Feng Shui, and I think it might actually be useful. Unfortunately, I am not fluent in German, and I am struggling a bit to understand the book. I do have a slight knowledge of German, as you may be able to tell by my family name, but it's not, it's nowhere near even semi-literacy. So it will take me a while to understand that book. And I may have some new videos out once I understand what's going on in that book. And it does seem to be pretty extensive, much better than anything that I've seen in any of these books. But then again, I only understand a little bit of it at present. So that's basically it. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact me here if you have any questions, or visit my ad-free website. And if you subscribe, you can get access to or get notification when I have new videos, monthly and yearly videos. Also, occasionally I will have new videos, especially about the San He system. Thank you again for watching.